Starfleet had one rule: no gods, no miracles. Then a man appeared outside the Enterprise. Floating, in metal armor, smirking. Sensors went crazy. Spock froze. The ship's core started rewriting itself. Tony Stark looked at their warp engine like a child finding a broken toy. "Jarvis, you seeing this? These guys built interstellar travel. With tubes." He stepped inside, uninvited. Kirk reached for his phaser. Tony didn't flinch. "Relax, Captain Kirk, I'm not here to fight." His eyes locked onto the engine. "I'm here to upgrade." The Federation had rules. Tony Stark was about to break all of them. The explosion didn't kill Tony Stark. It should have. The quantum gate, his newest obsession, his most dangerous creation, ripped itself apart in a cascade of light and screaming metal. Friday's warnings came too late. The arc reactor in his chest flared white-hot as dimensional barriers shattered around him. Tony felt himself stretched across infinity, then compressed into nothing. Then, silence. Cold. Stars. Tony opened his eyes to the void of space. His suit had sealed automatically, life support humming at emergency levels. The HUD flickered, struggling to reboot. "Friday?" His voice cracked. "Status?" Static. Then faintly, "Boss? Systems recalibrating. Location unknown." Tony spun slowly, repulsors firing in short bursts to stabilize. Behind him, nothing. No gate, no Earth, no home. Ahead of him, a starship. Not Chitauri, not Kree, something else entirely. Sleek white hull, elegant nacelles glowing blue. A ship that looked like it was designed by people who believed in tomorrow. Letters gleamed across its surface, catching distant starlight. USS Enterprise, NCC 1701. Tony blinked. Twice. "Okay," he muttered. "Either I'm dead and this is a very nerdy heaven, or I just fell into someone else's universe." The ship's sensors found him before he could decide. Chapter 2. First Contact. On the bridge of the Enterprise, controlled chaos erupted. "Captain Pike!" Lieutenant Mitchell's voice cut sharp. "Unknown contact bearing 27 Mark IV. It just appeared." Captain Christopher Pike rose from his chair, eyes locked on the view screen. What he saw made no tactical sense. A man, floating in space, wrapped in red and gold armor that gleamed like polished fire. "Magnify," Pike ordered. The image sharpened. The armored figure wasn't drifting. It was hovering, controlled, deliberate. A circular light burned in its chest, blue-white and impossibly bright. Commander Spock stepped closer, tricorder already scanning. His eyebrows rose, a significant display of emotion for a Vulcan. "Fascinating," he said quietly. "The subject is generating a localized energy field that defies known physics. His armor appears to be self-sustaining." "Is he alive?" Pike asked. "Affirmative. Human biosigns. However," Spock paused. "Captain, his technology does not match any Federation, Klingon, or Romulan database. It is entirely original." Lieutenant Uhura spoke up. "Sir, he's broadcasting on an open frequency, audio only." "Let's hear it." Static crackled. Then a voice, tired, sardonic, unmistakably human. "Hi, this is Tony Stark, billionaire, genius, currently lost. If anyone's listening, I come in peace and I really, really need a cup of coffee." Pike almost smiled. Almost. "Open a channel." Uhura nodded. "Channel open, sir." Pike stepped forward. "This is Captain Christopher Pike of the Federation starship Enterprise. You are in Federation space. Identify yourself and explain your presence." A pause. Then, "Did you say Federation? As in, United Planets boldly going, all that?" Spock tilted his head. He appears to possess foreknowledge of the Federation, yet his technology— "Yeah, about that," Tony interrupted. "Long story. Very long. Involves a portal, some bad math, and what I'm pretty sure was a small explosion. Can I come aboard? I promise not to touch anything important." Pike exchanged a glance with Spock. "Captain," Spock said, "the logical course is caution. His energy signature alone is affecting our sensor grid." "And if we leave him out there?" Spock considered. "He will likely attempt to board regardless. His suit appears capable of breaching our hull." Tony's voice crackled through again. "I can hear you, by the way. Vulcan guy's not wrong, but I'd rather be invited." Pike made his decision. "Mr. Stark, you're cleared to approach Shuttle Bay 2. Slowly." "Slowly. Got it. Slow is my middle name." Spock raised an eyebrow. "I highly doubt that." On the bridge of the Enterprise, controlled chaos erupted. "Captain Pike!" Lieutenant Mitchell's voice cut sharp. "Unknown contact, bearing 27 Mark IV. It just appeared." Captain Christopher Pike rose from his chair, eyes locked on the view screen. What he saw made no tactical sense. A man, floating in space, wrapped in red and gold armor that gleamed like polished fire. "Magnify," Pike ordered. The image sharpened. The armored figure wasn't drifting, it was hovering, controlled, deliberate. A circular light burned in its chest, blue-white and impossibly bright. Commander Spock stepped closer, tricorder already scanning. His eyebrows rose, a significant display of emotion for a Vulcan. "Fascinating," he said quietly. "The subject is generating a localized energy field that defies known physics. His armor appears to be self-sustaining." "Is he alive?" Pike asked. "Affirmative. Human biosigns. However," Spock paused, "Captain, his technology does not match any Federation, Klingon, or Romulan database. It is entirely original." Lieutenant Uhura spoke up. "Sir, he's broadcasting on an open frequency, audio only." "Let's hear it." Static crackled. Then a voice, tired, sardonic, unmistakably human. "Hi, this is Tony Stark, billionaire, genius, currently lost. If anyone's listening, I come in peace and I really, really need a cup of coffee." Pike almost smiled. Almost. "Open a channel." Uhura nodded. "Channel open, sir." Pike stepped forward. "This is Captain Christopher Pike of the Federation Starship Enterprise. You are in Federation space. Identify yourself and explain your presence." A pause. Then, "Did you say Federation? As in, United Planets, boldly going, all that?" Spock tilted his head. "He appears to possess foreknowledge of the Federation, yet his technology—" "Yeah, about that," Tony interrupted. "Long story. Very long. Involves a portal, some bad math, and what I'm pretty sure was a small explosion. Can I come aboard? I promise not to touch anything important." Pike exchanged a glance with Spock. "Captain," Spock said, "the logical course is caution. His energy signature alone is affecting our sensor grid. And if we leave him out there?" Spock considered. "He will likely attempt to board regardless. His suit appears capable of breaching our hull." Tony's voice crackled through again. "I can hear you, by the way. Vulcan guy's not wrong, but I'd rather be invited." Pike made his decision. "Mr. Stark, you're cleared to approach Shuttle Bay 2. Slowly." "Slowly. Got it. Slow is my middle name." Spock raised an eyebrow. "I highly doubt that." Tony touched down in the shuttle bay with exaggerated care, repulsors dimming as his boots met the deck. A security team waited, phasers not raised but ready. Professional. Tony appreciated profession. The helmet retracted, revealing a face that had seen too many battles and not enough sleep. He raised his hands slowly. "Tony Stark, Earth, Malibu specifically, or it was before I accidentally punched a hole in reality." Pike stepped forward, flanked by Spock. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Stark. You'll understand if we have questions. I'd be worried if you didn't." They walked through corridors that hummed with quiet efficiency. Tony's eyes drank in every detail, the clean lines, the integrated technology, the subtle lighting that suggested a civilization that had learned to be gentle with itself. "Nice ship," he said. "Very optimistic." Spock tilted his head. "Optimistic? Most places I've been, starships are built for war. Yours looks like it was built for hope." Pike glanced at him. The Federation believes in exploration over conquest. Tony nodded slowly. Yeah, I can tell. He paused. Must be nice. They reached the briefing room. Tony stood at the center, holographic displays flickering to life around him. Spock watched as the ship's systems responded to Tony's presence, not hacked, not forced, welcomed. Your technology is interfacing with our computer, Spock observed, without authorization. Tony winced. Sorry, my suit's curious. It likes making friends. Pike leaned forward. Mr. Stark, you claim to be from Earth, but Earth is a Federation member world. Your technology doesn't match anything in our history. Tony sighed. Because I'm not from your Earth. Different timeline, different universe probably. Where I come from, humans haven't made it past the moon yet. No warp drive, no Federation. Just us, trying not to blow ourselves up. Silence stretched. Spock spoke first. A parallel dimension, theoretically possible, though unverified. Verified now, Tony said. Lucky you. Pike studied him carefully. And the light in your chest? Tony tapped the arc reactor. It glowed softly, pulsing with each heartbeat. Arc reactor, miniaturized fusion core, keeps me alive, also powers the suit. Keeps you alive? Tony's jaw tightened. Shrapnel, long story. Let's just say I've got about 100 pieces of metal that really want to reach my heart, and this little nightlight is the only thing stopping them. Something shifted in Pike's expression. Not pity, recognition. You've been at war, Pike said quietly. Tony met his eyes. More than once, less than I'd like. Spock processed this information with characteristic precision. Captain, his energy signature is causing minor fluctuations in our warp field. Not dangerous, but notable. Tony nodded. Yeah, I figured. My reactor runs on principles your universe probably hasn't discovered yet. Different rules. Different rules, Pike repeated. And yet here you are. Tony spread his hands. Here I am. No plan, no backup, no ride home. He paused. But I'm very good at figuring things out. An alarm cut through the room, soft, insistent. Spock moved to the console. His expression didn't change, but his voice carried a new edge. Captain, long-range sensors are detecting an anomaly, bearing directly toward us. Pike stood. What kind of anomaly? Spock turned, and for the first time something like concern flickered in his eyes. Unknown, but it is responding to Mr. Stark's energy signature. Tony felt the arc reactor pulse, not painfully but warningly. Oh, he said quietly, that's not good. The view screen filled with impossibility. It wasn't a ship, it wasn't a creature, it was a presence, a fold in space that moved with intention, bending light and logic around itself like a cloak. Sensors can't lock on, Lieutenant Sulu reported. It's like trying to measure a shadow. Tony stepped closer to the screen, his suit's systems screaming data he didn't want to believe. That thing, he said slowly, isn't from your universe either. Spock's fingers flew across his console. Confirmed. The entity exists partially outside normal space-time. It is observing us. Observing? Pike demanded. Tony shook his head. Wrong word. It's tasting us, trying to decide if we're interesting enough to eat. The bridge fell silent. Pike's voice was steel. Explain. Tony turned, and for once the humor was gone. Where I come from, I've seen things, cosmic things that treat galaxies like playgrounds. Most of them don't care about individual lives, but some, he trailed off. Some collect, some optimize. They find systems that work differently and they adjust them. Adjust how? Spock asked. By removing the parts that don't fit their models. The entity pulsed. The Enterprise shuddered, not violently, but deep, like a giant drawing a breath. It's scanning our warp core. Scotty's voice crackled from engineering. Captain, the readings don't make sense. It's not attacking, it's learning. Tony closed his eyes. The arc reactor flared. It found me, he said. My reactor's like a beacon in this universe. It screams different with every pulse. Pike's jaw tightened. Can we outrun it? Spock calculated rapidly. Negative. The entity is capable of matching any velocity we achieve. Moreover, engaging warp may accelerate its interest. Tony made a decision. Then we don't run, he said. We confuse it. Spock raised an eyebrow. Elaborate. Tony began pacing, hands moving as he thought aloud. That thing is looking for patterns. Your warp drive, your technology. It's all elegant, predictable. It can read you like a book because you built everything to make sense. That is generally considered desirable in engineering, Scotty retorted. Sure, but what if we stop making sense? Pike understood first. You want to create chaos. Not chaos, Tony corrected. Controlled contradiction. We broadcast so many conflicting signals that it can't model us anymore. We become static instead of signal. Spock processed the concept. You are suggesting we weaponize inefficiency. Tony grinned, tired but genuine. See? Vulcan gets it. The entity surged closer. Consoles flickered. Crew members gripped their stations as reality itself seemed to hiccup. Pike nodded once. Do it. Engineering became a symphony of impossible collaboration. Tony worked alongside Scotty, their styles clashing and complementing in equal measure. Friday interfaced with the Enterprise's computer, trading data like old friends. You can't just randomize the warp field, Scotty protested. The equations won't hold. They're not supposed to hold, Tony shot back. They're supposed to dance. Trust me, the uglier the math, the prettier the result. Spock observed from a console, running calculations that bent Vulcan logic into new shapes. The probability of success, he announced, is 31.4%. Tony paused. That's higher than my usual odds. I'll take it. The entity pressed closer. The Enterprise groaned. Now, Pike commanded. Tony slammed his hands onto the interface. The arc reactor blazed, and the Enterprise screamed. Not in pain, in expression. Every system, every frequency, every piece of carefully optimized technology suddenly broadcast its own chaotic truth. The warp field fractured into 1,000 contradictory harmonics. The ship became a puzzle with no solution. The entity recoiled. Tony felt it, confusion washing over cosmic certainty. The thing that optimized universes couldn't optimize this. Too many variables, too much humanity. It's working, Uhura reported, wonder in her voice. But Tony saw what the others didn't. The entity wasn't retreating, it was adapting. Spock, he said sharply. How fast can it learn? Spock checked his readings. His expression shifted, the Vulcan equivalent of alarm. Too fast. Tony made another decision, the hardest kind. Friday, he murmured. Prep for full reactor discharge. Boss, that could kill you. I know, Pike heard him. Mr. Stark. Tony turned, meeting the captain's eyes. If I overload my reactor, it'll create a subspace spike big enough to blind that thing permanently. It won't just retreat, it'll forget. And you? Tony smiled, sad, accepting. 50-50, maybe less. The bridge fell silent. Spock spoke first. There may be another way. Tony looked at him. Your reactor's uniqueness is the problem, Spock continued, but also the solution. If we can distribute its signature across the ship, share the burden, the discharge may be survivable. Tony's eyes widened. You want to wire me into the Enterprise? I want to make you part of the crew, Spock said, temporarily. Scotty caught on. We use the ship's systems as a buffer, spread the load across every circuit. It would require precise calibration, Spock admitted, and trust. Tony looked around the bridge, at faces he'd known for hours but felt like he'd known forever. Okay, he said quietly. Let's do it. They worked together like they'd trained for this all their lives. Scotty rerouted power systems. Spock calibrated frequencies. Uhura managed the communication chaos. Sulu kept the ship steady. Chekhov ran calculations faster than anyone thought possible. and Tony Stark let strangers into his heart. Literally. The arc reactor's energy flowed through the Enterprise's systems, blending human innovation with Federation engineering. For one impossible moment, man and machine and crew became something new. The entity struck, reality buckled, time slipped, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. Tony screamed, not in pain but in effort. He pushed everything he had through the connection, feeling the crew's presence like a constellation around him. "We've got you," Pike seemed to say without words. "Fascinating," Spock observed with something like warmth. "Don't you dare die on my ship," Scotty growled. Tony pushed. The entity shattered, not destroyed, dispersed. Its certainty fractured against the combined chaos of 100 contradictions, logic and emotion, discipline and creativity, fear and courage. It fled into the dark, trailing confusion like blood. And Tony Stark collapsed. Kind of home. Tony woke in sickbay. The lights were soft. The bed was comfortable. Someone had removed his armor. Dr. McCoy looked down at him with professional grumpiness. "You're lucky to be alive," Tony smiled weakly. "Story of my life." Pike stood nearby, along with Spock and Scotty. They looked tired but triumphant. "The entity has retreated beyond sensor range," Spock reported. "Preliminary analysis suggests it will avoid Federation space for the foreseeable future." Tony pushed himself up slowly. "And the ship?" "Better than ever," Scotty admitted reluctantly. "Whatever you did, the systems are running at peak efficiency, like the ship learned something." Tony looked at his hands, scarred, calloused, still faintly glowing where the reactor's energy had burned too bright. "Thank you," he said quietly. "All of you." Pike nodded. "You saved us, Mr. Stark." "We saved each other." Spock stepped forward. "I have analyzed your reactor's dimensional signature. With the Enterprise's sensors and your technology, a return vector may be possible." Tony's breath caught. "You mean home?" "Theoretically." Tony looked out the sickbay window at passing stars. Home. Earth. His Earth, with all its problems and imperfections and wars. "How long?" he asked. "Several hours for calculations," Spock said. "Perhaps more for implementation." Tony nodded slowly. Then, "Can I see the bridge first?" Pike smiled. "You've earned it." Tony stood at the center of the Enterprise bridge, armor back on, helmet tucked under his arm. The crew watched him with something like respect and something like regret. "You know," Tony said, "where I come from, we're still trying to figure out how to live together. Countries fighting, resources hoarded, people convinced tomorrow won't come." He gestured at the view screen, at the stars. "You built this. You proved it's possible. You made hope into an engine." Pike stepped forward. "We had centuries to learn. You don't." "No," Tony agreed. "But I've got something better. I've got proof." He tapped his temple. "Friday's been recording everything. Your technology, your philosophy, your choices. When I get home, if I get home, I'm going to show them what we could become." Spock tilted his head. "That may alter your timeline significantly." Tony smiled. "Good." Scotty reached out, shaking Tony's hand firmly. "You're all right, lad, for an impossible man." High praise from a miracle worker. Uhura approached next. "If you ever find a way back, you're welcome here." Tony's throat tightened. "I'll remember that." Finally, Spock. The Vulcan held up his hand in the traditional salute. "Live long and prosper, Mr. Stark." Tony mimicked the gesture, imperfectly, humanly. "Same to you, Spock. And thanks for trusting someone who didn't fit." Spock's eyes softened fractionally. "Perhaps that is precisely why you fit." Pike extended his hand. Tony shook it. "Good luck, Tony." "Thanks, Captain. Take care of your crew." "Always." Tony stepped back, his helmet engaged. The arc reactor glowed. Friday's voice was warm. Translation coordinates locked. Ready when you are, boss. Tony looked around the bridge one last time, at a future that didn't know him, but chose to believe in him anyway. Let's go home. The universe folded. Tony Stark vanished. The Enterprise sailed on.